Hello and welcome back to the Linux Panic YouTube channel. In this video we're going to be going through what is the install process for Debian 12 on a system. Now you're probably wondering why. Well, Debian 12 has recently come out and people might want to have a look at it before going through the process, seeing if it is any different to previous versions of Debian. Now, I for one would also like to know this one because I might be jumping back over to Debian if I can get my graphics drivers working. So let's figure this out. Now, first things first, we have install graphical install, and we will be going with the usual graphical install, as that is my install method of choice. This looks like the typical Debian install 12er. Typical Debian installer. We want UK for area, and we want British English. For keyboard, this so far seems like a regular installer for Debian. If you've installed Kali Linux a few times, you'll recognize this one, as this is a near identical installer for Kali Linux as well, because that's how they do theirs. Doing the usual network configuration stuff and configuring with DHCP. It has figured itself out, so it's gone with an automatic choice of DHCP when it comes to network setup, because of course this is a virtual machine. It's already hooked up into the internet already. So yes, we'll leave the domain name alone because we don't have a domain name we're faffing around with. In this case, we're just going to do this and this one, and providing I spelled that right, and we should be good. So this is just going through the normal process. Everything, it will make we can do guided or set up with a logical, or just do it manually, but in this case we're just going to use the guided one, all files in one separate home or file temp. In this case, because we just want to see if there's any difference at all, we'll just go with the standard one, which most people would be using. We're not going to be touching iSCSI or encrypted or logical volume or anything like that. We just want the one, and in this case, yes, write these changes to disk and then go from there. So this will now go through and install everything. Now, because this is the net installer, it shouldn't take too long because it's already got everything it needs on the ISO. Because I decided to go with one that had everything on the ISO, because this is designed as a just put it in and go. Debian also sell a disk, like physical media with this on, just in case you've got, and I quote, pay for internet by the minute and stuff like that, because they give options to people who have less than ideal scenarios or less than ideal circumstances. So you got this sort of thing there and ready. So again, because it's Debian, it takes barely any time at all, because, well, it's Debian, and as we can see here, it runs on the kernel 6.1.0-9-AMD64, because I'm using a 64-bit system. If it was it's x86 64. If this was an ARM 64-bit, it would be ARM 64, but because this is a 86 64, it's AMD 64. People are wondering, well, why is it AMD? Oh, I've got Intel. No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's always like that. As it finds there, it's Bookworm official. You now have the option for scanning additional media used by the apps manager. If you don't have any additional media, we will not scan the extra installation media. Yes, this is our country. In fact, we will use the UK archive mirror for Debian. And the reason why we use this one for is because this is going to be a little bit better for the scenario of the fact I'm in the UK compared to deb.debian, which is, if I remember correctly, not. We'll go deb.debian. We're not going through a proxy, so we're going to ignore that. This is configuring apt. The one thing that apt is missing that is weaker than the Pacman system is Pacman allows you to download more than one thing at a time. And that's what apt is lacking, unless apt does that, which I'm not aware of, but apt will always do it. Pacman has that over apt, in my humble opinion. As we can see here, it's just going through the process of selecting and installing the software that needs, just the usual stuff. It doesn't appear to be actually any difference, which is a good thing. In this one, we can... Now, here's one thing that RedHat Enterprise does worse than Debian. It's the popularity contest thing. There's the option to go into it or not, and it's of course anonymized as standard because, well, Debian insists on it, but because we don't want to take part in the popularity contest, we will go with no. This is just better. Now, this is also one of the things that Debian does best. We've got our choice of install environment straight off the bat. Of course, we'll do the SSH and we'll go with Cinnamon with no norm, because Cinnamon is the best in my opinion. You can make your operating system look like Windows XP. That is very nice. Yes, we will go with continues. I will leave a link to making your operating system look like Debian. Make your Debian Cinnamon environment look like Windows XP up in the corner. Now, so it's just a link to my GitHub where you can download and install, make your Cinnamon environment look like Windows XP. I've used it. I display it whenever I'm doing my live streams, or just in videos where you can see the desktop. It looks like Windows XP. It acts like Windows XP. It's not Windows XP though. If it looks like a lie, sounds like a lie, and smells like a lie, then it is a lie. But in this case, it looks like XP, sounds like XP, smells like XP, but is not XP. Just XP is like the better looking Windows operating system. I guess the best looking Windows operating system there ever was and will ever be. Yes, Michael Shaft Windows, you can go walk yourself off a pier, mate. So now we just have to sit here and wait for this to finish installing, which again, typical amount of time for Debian, so we'll sit and wait. Okay, now that we have finished with the getting the packages installed, set up and configured, and we just need to wait for this. It's going to install the bootloader. It's going to do the usual check for the operating systems to make sure it doesn't overwrite them. Yes, we will install the bootloader now because that's the one we want. And we will go for Virtual Disk A. In this case, it's just going to finish off the installation, set everything up, do some hardware installation. As we can see here, it can tell it's in a virtual machine because it's installed the guest agent, or I believe it can tell it's inside a virtual machine because it's installed the guest agent. I could be wrong. It's installing 64-bit microcode. Well, it has installed the 64-bit microcode. It's disabling the install CD in the sources list. And now we're done. Make sure you remove the media, which we shall do now. We will just come to here, do CD-ROM, and then sweep. Come back here. Yes, apply them now. Full screen. Continue. And this is just going to go through the process of going through everything. Its signal termination and signal kill has been issued. Full screen, and here we have a normal looking grub screen. Now this runs with the kernel 6.1-0 for Debian 12 as opposed to a 5.15 kernel, if I remember correctly, for Debian 5. And as we see here, Debian 11, not Debian 12, Debian 5. That's years ago. Here we are. We are usual Cinnamon desktop. Now it appears that the install process is as normal and nothing has changed, which, if you ask me, is pretty good. And of course, we now have a better looking screen. So far it looks slightly gnomish, and that's expected. And Red Hat Virtual Display. This is not a 13-inch screen, but it doesn't know any different. So poor little operating system. We'll just do quick install of NeoFetch just so you can see. So I want to do sudo install NeoFetch. Yep, Debian's not part of the sudoers file. That was expected. Yes. That's the first time thing. It just says, hey, look, you're not part of the sudoers file. So you then gotta go into the superuser and then grant it superuser access. But in this case, not going to bother with that, because as we can see here, this is the operating system. Again, 8 gigs of RAM, 4 cores, nothing special, but here we are. Now, previously, this wouldn't be showing up as my CPU, which means the guest agent is actually installed. This is good, but also that resolution's wrong. So it's not quite there, but it's getting there. So anyway, I would like to thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, hit the like button. If you disliked the video, hit the dislike button. Maybe consider becoming a channel member while you're at it. Anyway, I've been Nick. You've been amazing. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and goodbye.